If you're not used to it, it is very bizarre. And koala bears are pretty cute. Come on. I know they got chlamydia, but they're very cute. It was great pedicure, but not pleasant. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, I am Yvette and I moved to the UK in May this year, and I posted a video not long ago discussing all the things I think the UK does better than Australia. But I have to be fair, nowhere is perfect, so I wanted to make a video going over some of the things Australia does excel at over the UK, because let's be real, nowhere's perfect. So while I do love the UK, there are a few things that Australia does get right and that I kind of miss from home. So I thought I'd just make a video discussing all the things that Australia does best and that I kind of miss. Number one is the weather with an asterisk. So I put the weather on because I always discuss the weather in these videos, it seems. It's basically my channel is just weather talk. However, the weather is better in that it is not as rainy and hotter. However, I find the word like good weather very subjective, because although it is drier and less wet, that also means it gets extremely hot in summer and then bushfires break out. I have been evacuated from my house in Australia every year since I moved in. That's five times every year. Every year I have to pack up my stuff and put it in the car and prepare that when I come back my house won't be there. And that's kind of takes a toll, and I suspect that's why I was able to move overseas fairly easy, because I've walked away from everything I've owned multiple times. And you don't get that with the UK, but you do get that drizzle, which can be annoying. So obviously it's a preference thing. If you like hot weather and don't like rain, then obviously Australia is going to have better weather. But if you don't like being branded by the car in summer and not being able to drive because it's too hot, then the UK is better. So that's why I put an asterisk on it. Undeniably, Australia has sunnier, warmer weather majority of the year, and yeah, although my conspiracy is that it feels different, which sounds crazy. I feel like 15 degrees here feels like 20 degrees at home. So I think it might have to do with the humidity, I'm not too sure. But yes, that's my conspiracy theory, that the degrees don't line up. But anyway, yes, Australia is sunnier nonetheless. Number two, I put wildlife. Now obviously when you think of Australian wildlife, you think everything's trying to kill you, which it is, but that makes it exciting. No, really though, we do have, although we have all of the snakes and spiders, and I'm not even going to put photos up because I don't want to have that in my Google recommended for the rest of the year, we also have some really cute animals. The quagga, name here, a marsupial in Perth, and it looks like it's smiling and people go take selfies with it. It's very cute. Kangaroos, while completely crazy and might fight you, are very interesting and kind of bizarre. And my personal favourite Australian animal is the platypus, because it's the only mammal that lays eggs, which is weird from a biological standpoint. So it is interesting. If you can get past all of the death and poison, it is very interesting. And we do have a lot of unique wildlife because it is so remote. It has kind of evolved differently. And koala bears are pretty cute. Come on. I know they got chlamydia, but they're very cute. Number three is an active lifestyle. So because of the hot weather, because of a lot of coastlines and a lot of beaches, it does lend itself to more of an active lifestyle. So in the UK, it seems that it gets quite hot and then you don't want to leave the house or do anything because it literally is so hot it's kind of suffocating, because there's no relief because there's a lack of air conditioning. So you kind of just need to chill out and kind of, be a bit of a lizard in the sun kind of thing. And in the winter, obviously everyone loves to cuddle up on the lounge and watch movies in the winter. So it's not particularly congruent to a lifestyle which would involve like surfing and kayaking. There is some hiking here though, but no, we don't have whitewater rafting, I don't know what I'm talking about. Skydiving, anything active seems to take off in Australia because the weather is hot, but then we can always get relief in air conditioning, so it kind of lends itself to being able to actually enjoy the weather a bit more, whereas here when it gets hot you just kind of everything stops because you're too sweaty and gross. Which is why I think the stereotype of like Aussies being hot and attractive, like the Chris Hemsworths, come from that active lifestyle, is that we're always out in the sun doing things because why not? We're trying to stay alive because of all the animals. I'm joking. So yeah, it is much more of an active lifestyle, which I'm an active person, so I like getting out doing things. But if you're a slower person and you like brunching and bar hopping and that's more your jam, more of a European vibe, obviously London is definitely more of a place for you, but active things, Australia every time. Number 4 is that it is large. Now, I put this in the pros for the UK, that it was small meant it was close to everything. Australia is quite big, which can be a downside if you want to go somewhere else, but if you want to stay locally and domestic, there are so many holiday opportunities. So you can obviously go to Sydney, my homeland, and have beaches and cities and the Harbour Bridge and Opera House. But you can also go to Melbourne, which is a bit more cultured, it's a bit more restaurant, foodie, nightlife, bar scenes, that kind of energy. And then you can go up north, which is to Cairns or Brisbane in Queensland, which is all beautiful beaches all year round. There's the Great Barrier Reef up there. There is all the crazy animals that are going to kill you are all up there. So if you want to go get an adrenaline hit, you can go up north. And then there's also Perth, which is a 5-hour flight. It's almost like going to another country, going all over there. But it is a beautiful area. There's like the sandbanks, sand dunes, there's sharks, the cute little smiling animals are over there as well. And then you've also got Darwin, which is very heavily Aboriginal focused. So if you want more of a cultural experience, you can go up there. Same with Uluru or Ayers Rock, whichever one you want to call it, in the centre, which is the big rock. So you got like the desert. So you do have a lot of experiences within Australia if you wanted to stay in there. And that was you love the outdoors and you love Australian wildlife and nature, like go to town. There is so many experiences. And Tasmania, how could I forget Tasmania? And the wineries, there's a lot of things you can do domestically if you want, because it's so big, there's a lot of variation. Number 5 is Christmas in the summer. I have obviously vocalized my dislike for it, but a lot of people do really enjoy it, and I've spoken to a lot of Brits that loved it. So I put it on the pros because some people find it a pro, not me personally, but being able to go to the beach on Christmas, being able to have a seafood lunch. Like I've said before, what Australia does for Christmas is lovely. It's just not Christmas, because Christmas is roasts, fireplaces, ugly sweaters, and roast dinners. Did I say roast twice? Clearly food is important to me. But nonetheless, it is a great time. It's just a whole different experience, and it is very fun. I do, however, think New Year's Eve during summer is fun because you can go to a beach. Everything's on a beach, very stereotypical, but watch fireworks off the beach, have barbecue, etc., all that stuff for New Year's Eve, and everyone's staying up late anyway. It's not a struggle because the sun doesn't go down too late to stay up till midnight. Not that I should be struggling, I'm in my 20s, but you know what I mean. So it is a very nice experience having the New Year's Eve in the summer, and Christmas if you're into it, but not me. I think everyone should do it at least once to have a hot Christmas, because if you're not used to it, it is very bizarre. Number 6 is that Australians are very friendly. Now, I'm not saying Brits aren't friendly, because they definitely are, but Australians, they'll be a friend straight away. You can meet someone and then go for a drink at the pub like instantly, or go just hang out with them for the day. If you were at a Bunnings, which is like a hardware store, and you couldn't get something home, if someone was there with a truck or a lorry, they would just help you out, take it home for you. There is a very collective, very positive, friendly attitude where bits of the UK are very friendly, but they're a bit more standoffish, even in the friendliest parts compared to the friendliest parts of Australia. So I do think the she'll be right, how she's going, heaps chilled vibe of Australia does help with the friendliness. Everyone's willing to help you out. Which leads you to my next one. Number 7 is that there's no real class system, and I think that might be why they're slightly more like willing to help, is because there's no like judgment in classes, where obviously the UK does have a class system. There is the elites, there is the working class, middle class, lower class, etc. Because we're a bunch of convicts, we all kind of started on the same level, which was none. So there isn't really that much of a class system at all. You could be CEO of a company and he'd probably still help you out as much as Joe Blow down the road. You know, there's no no one's really better than anyone else. They kind of see everyone as equals. And you can even see that in politics with, like, God knows who running for politics, so maybe it's not a good thing. There are some politicians who used to own, like, fish and chip shops, and now they're politicians, whereas it seems, I think the House of Lords, you have to be a lord and it's, like, passed down in the government, in the UK government. Feel free to correct me, I'm not 100%, but I think the House of Lords is literally a House of Lords, whereas here in Australia it can be anyone. So that does help, and it is interesting coming into this one, particularly as an outsider, because I'm don't really fit into the classes generally, because I didn't grow up in it. Tell me what class you think I am. Don't do that. Number 8, once again, this is not something I can attest to, but something I hear on the regular, is that the coffee is much, much better in Australia. Australians are coffee snobs. They really are. The only place I think Australians go that they like the coffee is Italy. And most of the time, if you get a good coffee in London, it's made by an Australian barista. I remember I was traveling around South America, and people I was traveling with were trying to get a good coffee and thinking, South America, that's where the coffee bean comes from, it'll be good coffee. And the coffees were just burnt and awful, and the people I was traveling with were just like, just let me back there and I'll make it myself. I can do it better than whatever you're doing, just give me the beans. So yeah, Australians do have good coffee. I don't know why. It is an anomaly. Maybe you know why. Tell me why Australians have good coffee, but boy do they like to tell you about it. Number 9 is the beaches. Australia does have good beaches. I used to think, because I grew up 20 minutes from a beach, so I was like very close, like went there every weekend, it was not a big deal. Not that I took it for granted, but I used to say like, oh, well, and I stand by it actually, I used to say I wasn't going to go on beach holidays because I grew up next to a beach, so what was the point of going somewhere far away to go to the same thing? But I've now been to Spain and Greece and a few other beachy places. Oh, and Brazil. Australia's beaches are really good. The water is very blue and clean, and the sand is really soft. That was one thing I found in Greece, was that the sand was quite sharp. I couldn't walk on it for too long because it was like broken shells, like almost sandpapering my feet. It was great pedicure, but not pleasant after, like you couldn't go for a beach walk because it would just hurt too much. You'd need to wear shoes. Whereas Australia, the beaches are really soft white sand. And often you get the pebble beaches in the UK. I think I do want to make a trip down to Cornwall because I hear that is like the best beaches of the UK, so I want to go down there and check it out, but I suspect the weather will still make Australia slightly better because it gets warm enough that you can actually enjoy a swim. But particularly if you go up north to Queensland, the beaches up there are fantastic because the water isn't as cold and they have the reef and beautiful beaches. Just watch out for box jellyfish and sharks. Number 10, my last one, is that they're not too serious. Australians are very happy-go-lucky, and that kind of shows in every facet of life. Is they're just like, yeah, nah, she'll be right, it's going on, no worries. And they'll probably roast you and make fun of you in the same way Brits do in terms of banter, but reality is everyone's so relaxed, you can't really offend an Aussie. I'm sure many of you have told me the same thing, is that we kind of just take it on the chin and laugh everything off, which probably annoying if you're trying to like have a serious conversation with us, but you love humor and make jokes about everything, which makes a fun time, which is probably what we're good to go drinking with. But yeah, whereas the Brits are obviously a bit more serious, they're a bit more demure, you know, stiff upper lip, that whole thing. Not saying Brits aren't fun, of course Brits are fun, but Australians never take anything seriously, and Brits do, which, depending on what you're doing, can be a good thing or a bad thing. There you have it. Those are my 10 things Australia does best and things Australia excels at. Tell me in the comments below if you've been to Australia and you agree or disagree, or you really want to go, or I haven't sold you on this and you still think Australia's a bit crap, I don't want to go. Fair enough. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. You can also hit the bell notification just in case you don't want to miss any, and hit subscribe so I can see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.